Wow.
Welcome to episode 4 of Literarily Dead.
Also, welcome to 2016.
17.
Oh my god.
You already fucked up. Okay. It's okay. It's bound to happen eventually.
I can't.
Alright, so this week's episode is homemaking.
It doesn't seem like it's going to be exciting just by the title.
I know, but it is. It's going to be.
Like, I'm so pumped for
You're
my
so
topic.
pumped?
I'm so pumped.
Well, I'm excited to hear about it because mine's interesting, but I don't know how many other people are interested in it, but I'm really interested in it. Alright, so we did the decider again, and it said me.
Yeah.
So, I will be going first.
Yay!
So this week for 2017's first episode
I'm so excited.
of
Tell me.
homemaking, I decided to go with the Winchester Mystery House.
Yes! Yes!
The Winchester Mystery House is it's a real life fun house. It is one of those locations that is so shrouded in mystery. And also, while I was doing the research for this, some really interesting shit came up. Like, I knew a lot of this to begin with, but reading further into it was just it was an experience.
I love this place. I want to go so bad.
Alright, so for those of you who don't know, the Winchester Mystery House is located in San Jose, California. It is open to the public. It is being restored, I believe, currently.
Yes,
it's constantly under restoration, which is kind of funny considering its history. And it is rumored to be haunted, which fits into dark tourism for me.
Absolutely.
So, the Winchester Mystery House was owned by Sarah Winchester, who was the heiress to the Winchester Rifle company. And basically the lore and legend around it is that she built this house for ghosts because she was haunted, air quotes haunted, by the spirits of the people that were killed by the Winchester Rifle. And supposedly that they threatened her that if she didn't build this house and continue building it, she would be haunted by for the rest of her life. Which is... It's not confirmed that this was what had happened or what she believed, but a lot of things point to it, basically.
I mean, she had a seance room.
Yeah, she had a seance
something.
room, and it's a crazy fucking house. So, a little history on Sarah Winchester. She was born Sarah Pardee. No one knows the exact date of her birth. They say it's somewhere around 1840. She was very smart. She was fluent in several languages. She was really short, though. She was like 4'10".
Wow.
Yeah, she was really short. But she was basically like the belle of the ball of her hometown back in Connecticut. So she married William Wirt Winchester, whose father owned several businesses. And he bought the volcanic... Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it now. But he bought the rifle company that would become the Winchester Rifle Company because he improved upon the design.
Right.
But basically the rifles were like super, like beforehand you had to load the musket through the front, through the tip of it. So you would have to, every single time you shot somebody in battle or shot off your gun in general, because those things miss like fuck all, you would have to stop and you would have to reload. You'd have to put in the gunpowder, you'd have to put in the pellets.
It was
you'd have
tedious
to,
as fuck.
Yeah, it's tedious as fuck. And when you're in the middle of battle, you can't fucking stop and do that. Your life and death hangs upon that shit. So, the Winchester Rifle had a backloading thing, so where you could open it up and put it in and then close it, and you could just shoot it off real quickly to cut so much time off of reloading. And that's basically, he was rich beforehand, but he made his fortune off of that.
Right.
So they married in the middle of the Civil War, September 30th, 1862. So she was around 22 at the time, somewhere in her 20s. In 1866, she gave birth to a daughter named Annie Pardee Winchester. But unfortunately, the child died a short time later to marasmus, which is a child's disease that waste their body away. She was torn up by this. She was like, I can't deal with this at all. And it took her like almost a decade. A lot of the things I was looking at described this as a madness. But I'm pretty sure she probably went into just like a huge depression and probably withdrew from society for a while.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It took her about a decade to get better, and then afterwards, another tragedy happened to her, where in 1881, her husband died of tuberculosis.
Oh no.
Yeah. So after this, she actually inherited 50% of the ownership of the Winchester Company, and she had an income of $1,000 a day because of this.
Whoa.
And so yeah, and back then it was it would equal to roughly $23,400 in 2013. So I imagine it's a little bit more now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am jealous.
So it's about this time after her husband died that she did the seance, the famous seance, where the performer told her that these ghosts were haunting her, and basically that is why her child and her husband had died, because of how many people were killed by the Winchester Rifles. And she wanted to know, like, what she could do to break the curse, and the person said, the ghosts, hair quotes, ghosts said, build us a house and keep building it. And as long as you keep building, we won't torment you, and the curse won't affect you any longer. So she moved around looking for a place to actually build this house. So she moved from New Haven, Connecticut to San Jose, California to build this house. And just a few facts about the house that I'm going to talk about. Like I said, this is going to be a short segment for me because it's really interesting in retrospect, but you can talk about it in a short time. So to build this house, she had 22 carpenters work 24 hours a day. And this is disputed, actually. The house says this. The tour guides say this, but there are some recordings in her her biography, a few other places where she said that she would give the carpenters, she would lay them off after a few months to give them a rest from the place, like she would need. Mm-hmm. So it's not sure whether they were there 24 hours a day or whether it would just be coming and going. Carpenters did live in the house at some times. And it's very obvious that she was fascinated with so many different things. A lot of signs of the occult. There's a lot of number 13s in the house.
Oh.
There's 13 bathrooms. There's a spider web stained glass that has 13 stones in it. A lot of windows have 13 panes. There's a really fancy chandelier that was originally made to hold 12 candles that was fitted to hold 13 instead. And it was said that one of the gardeners actually made a topiary in the backyard, or in the garden, that was shaped into the numerals of 13. So,
wow.
Yeah. And she went all out for this house too. There's Tiffany windows, there's exquisite carvings, there's so much shit in this house that's so expensive today. And going into even weirder stuff into this house, it was basically built if you were walking through it, you think you'd be a ghost to actually get through it, because there's stairs that go to nowhere, there's walls that open up to nowhere, doors that open up to nowhere, there's small rooms inside other rooms, which I'm imagining the way they're describing it is if you had 4 walls, think of putting another box inside of it, not attached to any of the walls.
That's so strange.
Yeah, and there would be points in time where she would get tired of a section, or she would hate it, she would have another seance and the ghost would say that they hated it and she would wall it off completely. They actually just recently found another room in 2016.
Oh yeah,
that they
I heard about that.
Yeah, that they had just found. And it was an attic space that contains a pump organ, Victorian couch, dress form, and sewing machines, and paintings too. So that's really cool. They're still finding shit.
Yeah.
So the house was actually 7 stories at one point. But in 1906, there was a great earthquake in California, and the top 3 stories collapsed, and they were never rebuilt afterwards. She, during this earthquake, she was also trapped inside a room called the Daisy Room, because she was sleeping in there, and a fireplace fell, like a chimney fell and trapped her inside. And she became really afraid that it was this because the spirits thought that she was almost done with the house. So after that, she continued constructing up until her death, which was in 1922, September 5th. So around this time, there were around 148 rooms, but maybe 160. Every single time somebody went to count the rooms in the house, there would be more or less, or they'd find another one. It's just really confusing because it's a maze. It's a large maze. Actually, after she died, her inheritance to everybody else had dwindled quite a bit because she had spent so much money on expensive things for this house and building this house and paying all of her workers a good wage. That they were trying to sell everything that was inside the house because there was expensive furniture. There was really fucking expensive furniture. But it was like rumored that it took them like 3 to 4 years to get everything out because people kept getting lost. And it was and it was hard to move everything out. So but the place did open again after it was bought up for a National Landmark Society. And
what year was that? You know?
No, I don't know. I didn't look that up. That was one thing that I should have looked up.
That's okay.
But while I did do research, there's a lot of people that don't think it was built for ghosts. There's a lot of people that believe
that she was nuts?
No, that she was actually the opposite of nuts. That she was super smart and that she was doing it specifically for a puzzle. That she was making it out to be an adventure. That she was a Freemason because I don't think it was her father. Maybe it was her father. There were a few of her relatives were Freemasons. And she was a firm believer that Francis Bacon, I want to say his name was Shakespeare. And there's hints in the house with like stuff on the stained glass and things like that she was hinting to something greater.
Oh.
But it's kind of like I feel like both stories are on the same level. Was she haunted by ghosts, or was she just building to build this puzzle to lead somebody to this great mystery unlock?
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I've never heard the other theory.
Yeah, I hadn't either. So when I was looking it up and it's like, the true story of Sarah Purdie, I'm like, what? There were several sites dedicated to this, and there's several books, too, which is an interesting thing to me. So if anybody wants to keep looking it up, definitely look into that, because I think it's crazy, and I always like to snort at, like, conspiracy theories, but that's kind of interesting, and it would make a lot of sense, because, I mean, if I had all the money in the world, and I was alone, I'd probably do the same thing, and build
that's
this
true.
just, like, really cool, really weird mystery house. Yeah.
That's cool as shit.
Yeah. So, that's my section. All right.
I don't know how I can top that. I mean, the Winchester Mystery House is probably my favorite historical landmark. Probably ever. I've never been there, but it's on my list of places to see when I'm in San Jose, which will hopefully be eventually.
Same.
Because I need to go to the Egyptian museum that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because Egypt.
Yeah.
So, I need to open my stuff. Okay. So, when we discussed homemaking, I was like, fuck, I'm so screwed. And then 2 weeks ago, I was doing inventory in Susan's house of all the books that were in her.
And she means Susan
house.
B. Anthony.
Susan B. Anthony. Susan B. Anthony's house. I was doing inventory of all the books that are in her house on display. And I came across these books about manners and the woman's role in the house. And I was like, those are really weird things for Susan B. Anthony to have in her house.
Yeah, considering who Susan B. Anthony was.
Right, so I decided to look more into this, and I was like, it's perfect for homemaking. So this is actually a genre called domestic economy. So a little bit of background on domestic economy. There are two eras in the United States and in England. These are where it's really popular.
Yeah.
The first is found during the Victorian era. In America, it's basically also the Civil War era. So we're talking mid-1800s. So this is the era that is known as the cult of domesticity. And this is where my research primarily takes place. But the other era is during post-World War II. So think 40s and 50s housewives.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I Love Lucy, all that crap. That's the revival of the cult of domesticity, the revival of the domestic economy genre. So some historical and social content around this whole idea. It was stated, quote, true women possess 4 cardinal values: piety, purity, domesticity, and submissiveness. Unquote. All of them, and women are considered the light of the home. So this is the ideal for all women, but not even if you had these virtues, you weren't a real woman, quote unquote, unless you were white and Protestant.
Oh my God, of course.
So even if women upheld these ideals and she was colored or an immigrant, it did not count. She was a woman, but not an ideal woman. So you get into this whole feminist and racial and xenophobia with this cult of domesticity. So the domestic economy genre is made up of guidebooks or how-to or manuals on the home, and they were mostly aimed towards middle-class women. And this is mostly because upper-class women had servants to do all of this stuff, so they didn't need the books to tell them how to cook because they had servants to do it. So why the hell not? Okay, so, and to say that, hold on. So because they had the servants, they didn't need the extensive knowledge, like I was saying. But to say that these guidebooks were comprehensive is an understatement, okay? Some of them had history about the Civil War, anything from the Civil War to manners. And it was just like this complete, everything you need to know guidebook.
Oh my God.
Basically an encyclopedia for women. Like, crazy. I have like a page of just things people would know. So, some books as The Skillful Housewife's Book and The Complete Guide to Domestic Cook, Taste, Comfort, and Economy. Like, these are some weird-ass titles, and it gets weirder.
Okay.
So these books detailed day-to-day activities and guided women to an appropriate moral and religious outlook in the home. So they had a ton of religion just packed in there as well. And like many books at the time, they almost always had illustrations or colored plates, and they had decorative covers.
Ooh.
So these guidebooks were written by both men and women.
Okay.
So one of the more famous authors is Catherine Beecher. If that name sounds familiar.
Oh, yeah, because Beecher's Bibles, right?
Well, that too.
Yeah.
But her sister is the famous Harriet Beecher Stowe.
Oh, that's
the author of Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yeah.
She published a handful, about a dozen domestic economy books during her life. So I think she's a really interesting woman, just because she's the complete polar opposite, almost, of her sister. So, like her sister, she was an abolitionist.
Yeah.
And part of the temperance movement. But unlike her sister, she was an anti-suffragist.
Oh, really?
And so she's alive and working during the same period as Susan B. Anthony. Because Catherine believed that women would influence society more as mothers and teachers, and they would be corrupted by politics.
Yeah.
And then you have her sister who's like, yo, votes to women. So, it's just an interesting little parallel.
Uh-huh.
So now to content. This is going to be a long section on content.
Okay.
Because this literally goes in every direction you could possibly think. So, like I said, day-to-day activities, and that's just the surface. We're talking countless recipes, uses of different vegetables, and how to distill alcohol. For those people who are not for temperance. And some even had metallurgy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, what? Why do I need to know metallurgy?
Explain what metallurgy is for people.
So it's like the working of metals.
Yeah.
And the making of stuff with metal. So since these books were targeted towards middle-class women, many of them also included tips on cooking on a budget.
Oh!
And I'm like, that's so handy. That's something that we still have today. Other topics included home remedies and medicines, and time-saving tips for cleaning the house. There's actually a book dedicated to this called The Housekeeper's Guide. Some discuss gardening, cultivation techniques, and how to display their flowers.
Aww.
Of course, it didn't stop there.
Yeah.
There were child-rearing books that gave advice for mothers to give the correct balance of discipline and affection.
Okay.
As well as the appropriate diet, sleep, and exercise for their children. Because these women apparently have no idea what they're doing, that they need a guidebook to tell them.
Yeah.
So keep in mind that these are mostly geared towards middle class, but there are also books written for the upper class women. And this content became a lot more elaborate, with books such as French names of dishes used in menus.
Oh my God.
So a lot of these books would include tips on how to set an elaborate table with fine china and stemware. And some were even dedicated to table talk, which outlines appropriate dinner conversations and etiquette for dinner parties.
Okay.
Because their behavior at the dinner party had to match their class.
Yeah.
And their station. So you'd think by now all of these topics would be exhausted, and you're not correct. Upper class guidebooks also discussed appropriate charities and organizations for women to support and join. And topics for both classes included tips on interior design, with chapters about fabrics and chandeliers, and even new needlepoint patterns and techniques to try.
Oh.
So, when I was doing my research, I came across one domestic economy guidebook that I really wanted to highlight. So the book that we know it today is called Mrs. Beeton's Book of Household Management. It was printed in 1861. The author was Isabella Beeton. She was from England. This is an English book. She was 21 when she began working on it, and it was published in 24 series, in a newspaper.
Oh.
But eventually, it was compiled into one book. So the original book's title, are you ready? The Book of Household Management, comprising information for the mistress, housekeeper, cook, kitchen maid, butler, footman, coachman, valet, upper and under housemaids, lady's maid, maid of all work, laundry maid, nurse and nursemaid, monthly wet and sick nurses, etc., etc. Also, sanitary, medical, and legal memoranda with a history of the origin, properties, and uses of all things connected with home life and comfort.
Holy fuck! That is a mouthful!
Yeah, so...
That's not even a mouthful, that's an entire stomach full.
Right. So that is the original title of this book.
That is hard mode chubby bunny full. Like...
Yeah. That was the original title of what we now call Mrs. Beeton's Book for Household Management.
Oh my God.
So this book was so popular
Uh-huh.
that Arthur Conan Doyle, not in one of his Sherlock Holmes books, but in another part of his fiction, he had a chapter called, the use of Mrs. Beeton's guidebook.
Uh-huh.
And the story was about a happily married couple, and the wife was referencing the book, and he wrote how happy Mr. Beeton would have been because Mrs. Beeton is such a good housewife.
Oh.
Because she wrote the book.
Oh.
So this is all during the same period as Arthur Conan Doyle.
Uh-huh.
So by 1868, the book had sold 2 million copies.
Oh my God, in 1868?
1868. This has been in production for 7 years. 2 million copies. That's like Harry Potter level. But there is a major controversy behind the book, since many of the popular recipes were, in modern terms, plagiarized.
Oh.
But none of them were copyrighted, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
They just copied it and put it in the book. But what is interesting is some of the content in modern thinking is really hilarious.
Really?
So I have some of the comments that I conveyed in the book.
Oh my god.
Mangoes taste like turpentine. Lobster is indigestible. Garlic is offensive. I don't like this one. This one is just like, this one hurts. Potatoes are suspicious, and a great many are narcotic. I really don't like that one. I have one more.
Okay.
Cheese can only be digested by sedentary people. Sedentary? Yeah. Yeah. She also has conflicting comments about tomatoes on the same page. Mm-hmm. In one line, she'll say they're good for something, and in another line, she's saying they're bad for something else.
Potatoes?
Tomatoes.
Tomatoes, okay.
But it was one of the first books to make recipes reader-friendly. So the ingredients were broken up and not mushed together in one paragraph. Mm-hmm. The copyright of the book was sold by Isabella's husband after her death because he went bankrupt. Those that bought the rights kept coming out with new editions, and it's still being updated today.
Oh.
But remember how I said I didn't say this. In 1861, it had 44 chapters.
Oh my god.
By 1904, the book had 74 chapters and over 2,000 pages. Like, crazy.
It's a lot.
Crazy. Since then, it appears that much of the content has been revised, and now only 672 pages are in the book. That is as of 2013 when it was last revised.
Okay.
And I found out that this is the book that they used by the food economist on the BBC show Downton Abbey, which is one of my favorites, to recreate the food of the period.
Oh.
I love that. That makes me so happy.
The little things.
And I just want to point out that these topics were popular decades ago, but that doesn't mean that it's not a popular genre anymore. Even though we don't really think about it as domestic economy, because it's a very gendered way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But we still have guidebooks like cookbooks, child rearing guides, and how-tos for everything from home to food. And the modern cult of domesticity is more gender neutral, and the domestic economy is now found in media. Just look at HGTV and Food Network, Martha Stewart everywhere. That's all modernized domestic economy. But thank God it's more gender neutral because I'm a feminist, man.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. Most of it was just ridiculous, but whatever. That's the time.
And that's your thing?
That's my thing.
There you go.
It was really cool to research.
So interesting that you found it at your job, though.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't expecting to find that, but
oh my god,
like, a book on manners. I need to go to my boss and be like, so
we have this.
What is a book on manners? Like, this is not something Susan would ever want. Because it's I flipped through it and it was just like the proper way to curtsy and the proper way for women to speak to men, and I was like, what? Why is this here?
That's, I guess maybe knowing your enemy, but at the same time,
I mean, it's period, and it completely fits with the time that she lived in, but I'm just like, why?
Know what the propaganda says.
Exactly. So that's my thing.
Okay, so what do we have for next week?
I looked and I don't even remember.
You don't even remember?
I don't. We might have to update the Facebook.
We have to update the Facebook?
Are we just going to throw it out? Oh, isn't it, Death in the Family. That's what it is.
Death in the Family. Ooh.
I feel like I know which one you're going to do.
You know which one I'm going to do?
I feel like I do.
Which one do you think I'm going to do?
I think you're going to do Lizzie Borden.
No.
No?
I won't do that then. We'll save Lizzie Borden for another day.
Because I don't know what I'm going to do.
You don't know what you're going to do?
No.
Having a family could be so many things.
It really could be. Oh, I do have some ideas on what I'm going to do.
You have some ideas?
I got a few in my head.
All right.
Whether or not I do it is total.
Is another story.
That's a whole other story.
Yep.
Oh, the puns.
A story. I get it.
Hey.
A on the nose. All right. Anyway. All right. So that's it for this week. And we will see you next week.
Have a happy 2017, and we'll see you
later.
Hopefully the 8th. We'll see how life
Hopefully
gets in the way.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.